Hey guys, and welcome to the Garage Athlete Show. We're on episode 65. So we are back on track in terms of trying to get these out a little bit more regularly now. Now, life is allowing us to do so a little bit more. I was just saying to Dan, kind of like before we got on board, about how it feels like I've not seen him for a number of weeks, but yeah, life's just been hectic. And as all you guys know, like we run businesses, we have families, there's kind of lots and lots of things going on, but it is something that we are committing to try and do a little bit more often, getting some cool guests on over the next few weeks, as well as just generally catching up with myself, Dan, and Rachel. Rachel should be joining us a little bit later on, but we know her schedule is a little bit all over the place at the moment. So, Daniel, like, how are you? How are things? I saw on your Facebook the other day, your twins are one now. I feel just yesterday we were recording an episode being like, oh, the twins are, are still keeping me up at night, like all that kind of stuff. So how's it feel? Like, how's this first year of being a dad of twins kind of gone for you?
Uh, it's been a challenge. It's quite something. I think people that have twins will know what it's like. But if you don't have twins, you can't explain it. Like I grew up with friends who are twins, and parents, I know who are twins from when I was younger. But I didn't quite fully understand it. But it's pretty. Yeah, it's sort of like all consuming. They're lovely little girls, but yeah, they require a lot, like a lot of your time, a lot of attention, a lot of parenting. I've done a lot more this time around. I always thought I was a pretty hands-on dad with my first daughter, but I've done a lot more this time around. Like definitely it's taken up a notch, like a more maybe traditional sort of mom role, I guess, or what they call it, primary caregiver role with one of the girls. So it's kind of been doing tons of that. I don't know how we would have made it work if I didn't work from home. Actually, it would be pretty insane. But yeah, it's okay.
I was going to say it's one of those things. It's not a baby on their own is pretty life consuming, but I imagine having two, it doesn't just double the load. It adds an extra element to it, because it's not like you could hold like just one in each arm. You've got to pay the same amount of attention. It's obviously twice as much mess, twice as much feeding, twice as much everything. So yeah, just it's amazing to see how yourself and your partner kind of like have juggled it. I know that first year, because I'm guessing they're starting to sit up now. Are they crawling yet?
Yeah, they crawl around the house.
Crawling. Oh god, that's a whole new dynamic, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm quite pleased they're crawling, because it's another dynamic. Like at least they can do stuff and move around and occupy themselves a bit more. But it's much better. How's your lot?
Yeah, so we're good. So Willow just seems to keep picking up just coughs and colds, and then the dreaded COVID's hit nursery. So like in her class at nursery, they had 3 members of staff go down with COVID, and then 3 children go down with COVID. And then this week we've had a letter that another 3 children from the same group have all kind of gone down with COVID. So we've now got to lateral flow her like once a week for her to be able to go to nursery, so that they can try and stop the spread. Like, I don't know if you've ever tried to get one of those nasal swabs up a 3-year-old's nose. Like, it's traumatizing for everybody involved. But I still need to work. I still need to be able to do what I kind of need to do. Josh was 12 on yesterday, actually. So that's it's very much a teenager now, even though he's only 12. Like, as soon as they go to secondary school, they just pick up those teenage habits.
Year 7 now, right?
Pardon?
Year 7, I think.
Yeah, right? He's year 7. Ben will be 18 in April, which is scary. So he's finishing up his A levels this year. Decided to take a gap year. Oh. But I think he's probably just going to end up working. And then I think he's looking to go into the RAF, which is a career. He wants to go in as a research analyst. So, it's not something I expected from him. If I'm completely honest, and that one came out of left field. But I think it'd be a really, really good career choice for him. I think if you kind of go into the RAF and go into one of those roles, it opens up a lot of doors kind of in Civvy Street and stuff. So, and I think it'd be a good learning experience for him because obviously we're in Lincolnshire, so there's quite a few RAF bases around here. So whether he'll end up having to move away or kind of work at Scampton or Rampton or whatever it's called that's around here. No, Rampton's a hospital, isn't it? Scampton. And then, yeah, life's just kind of been getting back to normal now. So obviously I did my final competition a month ago now. Food jumped up very, very quickly. I think we went from my diet at like 2,000 calories. I think it jumped up 1,000 calories in one day. Because basically Jake was saying to me, right, we need to get some body fat on you. You're sub 5% body fat right now. Like, you're not going to grow until we've got to put like 5 or 6 kilos on you like very, very quickly. So yeah, in 4 weeks, I'm from like my lowest weight was 67.5 kilos. I'm now up to like 74. I float between 73 and 74. Not all of that has been clean food, I'm going to be completely honest, but I've found my food focus is a lot better this time around because I've been able to, if I'm having an overeating day, I know that, and actually I want to put body fat on right now. So it's just right, tomorrow I just need to kind of pull things back a little bit and kind of regain that balance sort of thing. And when you've got I think my calories are already back at 3,500. So when you've got 3,500 calories to play with, like there's plenty of things like you can get in there. I'm very much a proponent of like the flexible dieting side of stuff, especially in like a building phase. Like my evening meal is always with my family. I just eat what they're eating. I just have like structured meal 1, 2, 3, flexible meal in the evening at 4, and then my and meal 5 is then structured again. So having that like skeleton structure and then having some flexibility kind of like built in just means I stick to it much, much better. And it's something that I've been incorporating with more of my clients recently, being like, right, try and get it so that your breakfast and your lunch is at least got some structure to it, so you know what you're going to be having. It relieves that decision fatigue when you go from like just eating what you want to then trying to like track every single thing that's going in, just whipping out my fitness pal and trying to track all these different things. It can get very tiring, very tiresome. Whereas if you know, right, breakfast is one of these 2 options, lunch is one of these 2 options, you can have those things saved, which just saves you a lot of time. And as I said, you're not making kind of like all these decisions day to day. I think that's the major change that's probably helped me in terms of my food focus, is that I've got that structure. So I know what I'm eating at meal 1, 2, 3. So I'm not having to make those decisions. I'm not then going in the cupboard because I'm hungry, because it's right, it's 11 o'clock. I need to be having my cream of rice and protein or whatever it is. So yeah, that's having a coach through the off season this time. So last time I just stopped having coaching. I had nobody told me accountable, which meant I just got fat really quickly. So yeah, keeping my coach in my off season this time. We're going to see what happens with it.
A good idea.
Yeah.
Winners are built in the off season, as they say.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the reason.
I think Rachel's just texted to say that she can't make it, so that's fine.
I just saw that one.
Yeah. So I put up a question box in my Instagram the other day. I forgot to do it in the group, and basically we've run out of time. So are you training at the moment, actually, or have you just been doing what you can? No, you've just been drumming.
Yeah. With cards on the table, I'm not interested in training. It's just I'm not at a point where training is a priority. It's just not something which is on the cards for me at the moment. Raising families and working is more the priority, but I don't really care, because like it's just, I train because I want to train. I don't want to train, so I don't train. Like I'll get back at it at some point, but it's just something. Yes, I could do it, but I'd rather drum instead, so I'll do that instead. And in terms of, it's interesting though, because in terms of working with people, like it hasn't made. I always wondered if it would make a difference to the people I work with, but it really hasn't. Like if anything, I think they're getting a lot. I wouldn't say more from me, because I gave them loads when I was an athlete as well, but like I'm getting some crazy good stuff from people at the moment, like in terms of results and numbers and fat loss and that kind of stuff. So that's nice. So yeah.
I think it's one of those things where there's always that question of like, does your coach need to be in shape to make them a good coach? And I don't think it's necessarily that they need to be in shape. However, they need to have at least gone through the process that you're trying to go through. So as you said, you have been an athlete, you have done powerlifting, you've done strongman, you've gone through diets, you've done these things in the past, which means that you can empathize with them. Whereas if somebody is trying to coach you through something and they've never gone through it themselves, so like the prime example is Johnny PT, who's just passed out of his PT course. He's 21 years old, still lives at home with his mum, has a 35-year-old mother of 3 saying to him, oh, I struggle to kind of keep to my diet because I don't want to eat food that's different to my kids. And he turns around and goes, well, you just don't want it enough. Like, I think that's where the issue comes in, when that person's then not able to empathize with that person's problems and help them overcome them and help them figure out a way to kind of get around them. So yeah, what you're saying there is, even though you're not an active athlete, like some of the best coaches in the world weren't great athletes, but 9 times out of 10, they've at least been involved in the sport enough to kind of know kind of like what's going on. Like if you've never squatted over 200 kilos, like you're probably going to struggle with the things that are holding somebody back from doing that. Have I made that? I think I've made that point quite well.
Yeah, I think so. I think if you just have to be really good at what you do, because I think a lot of athletes rely on they're jacked so they can get you jacked. And I think a lot of people that train with people, me as well, are probably guilty of trying to aspire to be like the coach, or maybe do their physique. Like a lot of people will train with certain bodybuilders, palaters, because they're absolutely jacked, and that it's a good marketing tool. They've worked hard to get there. I would still say you need to have some form of athleticism or track record, but if you're not going to be like, there's a couple of coaches on the sort of strongman powerlifting circuit who aren't in shape, who aren't strong, but have incredible success with the people they work with. So it's kind of like, well, there's your answer. Like, what is the result? Yeah, with people. More often than not, I've found, even like especially in rugby, not always the best athletes are the best coaches. I mean, there's always people exceptional. I work with, internationals who are fantastic coaches as well. But then I work with people who never got near that and were brilliant coaches. So it's kind of time tells on that side of thing, on the coaching side.
Yeah, I think it's more, as you said, it's people that approach coaching as a craft in itself. The people that just rely on their physique. So you can normally tell they're the ones that they've got this amazing physique, and then they push people towards like an app, or just like a cookie cutter program where you can tell that it's like, right, you've got 1,000 people on this paying like £5 a month. Whereas if somebody has got a one-to-one coaching program and they've been in the game for a number of years, 9 times out of 10, they've been able to get some results, or else they would have just dropped. Like, I think the dropout rate is something like 1 in 10 in the first year, and then so 1 in 10 PTs make it through the first year, and then out of those, that 10% that's left, like 1 in 10 of those make it past year 5. So it's like a 1% of PT/coaches make it to being in the industry for 5+ years, just because it's not. I hate when people say like the personal training industry is saturated. It's not saturated. Good coaches are hard to find. The barrier to entry is very, very low, which means that there is a lot of people trying to be involved in this industry, because it's a 6-week qualification that'll cost you. I saw somebody doing a level 3 course for like £1,000, like recently, or less than £1,000. I'll get you a level 2 and level 3, and then you're straight on the gym floor. So it's not a vast amount of money. You see a lot of people that are they basically have a little bit of success on Instagram. They've got a few followers, so they go and get their personal training qualification. And they think, right, because I've done this, like people will come and want to train with me, and it doesn't work. Well, you'll know yourself, like you've got to kind of get into the nuances of marketing and sales and figuring out like who you can work with, and there's a lot more to coaching than just, right, I've got abs, so I can teach you to get abs as well, because the program that works for me and the way I do things might not necessarily be the best fit for every single person that wants to come through my doors.
Yeah, no, I think agreed on that, absolutely.
So that segues into the first question quite well. So what's the most effective plan to build muscle at home? So obviously you're more of a, it's very vague. The most effective plan is the one that you can stick to consistently for a period of time. That's it. Very well, yeah, it's a very broad answer to a very broad question. It's one of those things, there's a lot of factors that kind of go into that. How long you've trained for, what equipment you've got, how much time you've got, what the stresses are going in your life. Like I saw a post come up on the group the other day of like, right, what programs everyone following? And like, if you read through the comments, there was about 40 different program names kind of like on there. And this is the mistake a lot of people make, is they're like, right, what program can I go and find? There's millions of programs out there, and they all work for certain people with certain goals. So rather than going and saying, well, what's the best program to do this? It's like, well, what is my goal? Number one. And I know you've put your goal is to kind of build muscle, but is that build muscle to look better, build muscle to be a bodybuilder, build muscle to play your sport? Like you haven't really given us enough information. And then it's just, yeah, the basics are always going to work. Progressive overload, making sure that you're in a slight calorie surplus if you're trying to build muscle. And then you've just got to work around the equipment that you've got. So some of us have got quite nicely equipped home gyms, so we could follow most programs that are out there and just have to make a few tweaks here and there. If you've got a bench and some dumbbells and you try and follow something like I'm trying to think of a program now, like West Side or something like that, where you need a lot of bands, chains, a squat rack, that kind of stuff. Like you're going to struggle to do that if you've just got a bench and some dumbbells and some resistance bands. So yeah, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that, mate.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of interesting people are still asking that question. I guess they're probably early in their training age. I guess once you've been training for about, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, you then realize that's not the right question to be asking. But you know, it's a fair enough question. You want to know how to, you know, people want to know what to do to build muscle, I guess. So I mean, in terms of training, as long as you're training with good amount of intensity frequently, getting in multiple times a week, you're on your way there, and then you can start tinkering it from there. So yeah, some great templates and things out there to build muscle. Generally speaking, you know, yes, you can hypertrophy off sets of 3, sets of 5, but generally speaking, I would prefer to go to the higher ranges, purely because it's not as you know, if you're doing 10 sets of 5, you fucking know about it, trust me, it hurts. Whereas if you're doing 5 sets of 10, yes, it hurts, but not quite the same way that a big heavy set does for you. So yeah, I mean, the highest sort of reps, you know, compounds, that kind of stuff, and then build from there. But yeah, it's I mean, it's a big question, shall we say?
Yeah. Okay, so next question. How do you stay motivated to train in the cold? So I believe this came up when I posted a story up to say it was like 1 degree in my garage. So I think you've got an internal garage, haven't you? So
we've got an internal garage with a roller shutter door, and like even at its coldest, it's 12 degrees in there. So that's the coldest it gets in my garage. Honestly, I just got a bit sick of, I always used to train in like 1 degree, 2 degrees, and I was just fucking sick of it. It's just not needed. So I fixed it. I made it hot. To stay motivated, this is like, you either want to do it or you don't. Like, you either want to lift weights or you don't. If it's cold and you don't want to lift because it's cold, it's not you're soft, it's just, okay, that's fine, but you don't want to lift enough. Like, you'll find ways around it, like you'll wear loads of layers, you'll do loads of things, but in my way around it was like, I don't want to be cold, so I'll make it warmer. So I didn't like that was my fix to it. But I've
Yeah.
lived in comps where it's been nothing. I've played on games when you can see breath freezing in front of your face. I guess it's not something I think you can like look for motivation. I just think it's something you are. It's just intrinsic. I just think it's just something you do. It's like yes, it's annoying, it's a hindrance, but you're just going to lift. Like when I first had the girls, yes, I would be battled all day from looking after them. Yes, I was tired. Yes, it does make sense at the moment. Why am I trying to lose weight when I got like all these kids? But you just wanted it, whereas your brain kind of shifts around to priorities or what it wants to focus on. And I think if lifting is that thing you want to focus on, really, you'll lift. If it's, if it came to it and says the only way for you to lift is in a gale force winds outside with rain coming down and there was no other way to do it, you do it because that's the only way to do it. So you don't want to, but you just kind of do it. With inside, keeping warm, it's, once you get going, it's okay. It's a bit uncomfortable, but it's fine. I prefer to be warm. I am still wearing shorts in like outside in winter, so maybe I'm talking shit here, but legs retain heat anyway, so it's not the be all and end all. But I just think it's like, I don't know. I just think you just get on with it. If you live in a garage gym, it's going to be cold. I mean, I'm very lucky that I have an internal with a door that it's amazing. Actually, it's really, really good. But at the same time, like my problem with being in the gym with the cold wasn't necessarily the training. It was the delivering sessions. When you're in a gym for like 8 hours in 1 degree, it gets to you after a while. So mine's more, I've done all that more for me to be warm whilst giving sessions, whereas more than often than not, the people I train, they end up in shorts and t-shirt after a while anyway. But I think to stay, if you're looking for how to stay motivated when training, I think you're already off to a bad start. Like it's like when someone comes to train with you or comes to join your team, it's like, oh, I just need someone to give me motivation. It's like, it's not going to work. So it's like as simple as you either want to do it or you don't. It sounds a bit black and white, but it's the only answer I can really think of.
So yeah, it's one of those things where I spoke on a podcast about this recently, how motivation is actually a really, really bad thing to base whether you train or not off, because motivation is emotional. Motivation relies on, like Dan said, you being in the right mood. Like if you're relying on motivation and finding the time, then you're probably not, when it's, as Dan said before, like he's just been looking after twins all day. He's had a full day of work. He's tired. There's all these factors that would have given him a lot of ammunition to go, you know what, I'm not going to train today. But he just did it because it was a habit, it was a behavior, and because his brain had locked in on that thing that he wanted, like training would help to kind of get him there. So when somebody comes to like us as a coach, one of the first things that we do is we sit them down and go, well, what are your goals? Okay, those are your goals. So I want to drop a dress size, or I want to lose a stone. Okay, why? Why is that important to you? What is the emotional driver behind that? And normally people will just give a very, very fluffy answer. So sometimes as a coach, you have to dig deep and go, well, what's that going to give you? If you lose a stone, what's that going to give you? And 9 times out of 10, it's more confidence and to feel better about themselves. Most people, if they're going into like a weight loss or a fat loss phase, they don't feel like themselves anymore. Like life's taken over. They've put on a bit of weight. They've become mum and dad rather than themselves as an identity. So in terms of staying motivated, it's remembering your why, remembering what you're doing it for. What's the deeper reason behind training? If you just love training, like Dan said, you'll get on with it. Like I love training. It's one of the reasons why I became a personal trainer. It's why I became a bodybuilder, because I love training. Is it comfortable training in a garage where it's 1 degrees? No, it's not. So what do? We put on some jumpers. Like, I take all the flack that I get online for wearing gloves because the bar is 1 degree. Like, when I hold it, it physically hurts. So that's why I wear gloves in the winter. And there are lots of things you can do to kind of get around it. And as Dan said, if your why is important enough, if you've got a deep enough reason behind what you're doing, you'll find a way to get around it. Either you'll spend more money on insulating your garage, insulating the door to make it more comfortable, to make it warmer, or you'll put on a jumper, you'll get warmed up, and you'll get on with it. So, yeah, don't rely on motivation. Just once you're past the first month or so, it'll just become a behavior, it'll become a habit, and it'll feel weird to not train rather than to train. So yeah, I think that's covered that one. Got a little bit philosophical there as well, didn't we? Do you have any other hobbies? So Dan does have some interesting hobbies, actually. So why don't you fill us in on some of your hobbies for anybody who is new to the podcast, Dan?
Yeah, I guess the main one is probably the only one I'm really pushing at the moment is drumming. I play a lot of drums, and I in a band do cover gigs, do some dep gigs if I can. I am restoring a drum kit at the moment, an old 70s drum kit, and then I've got another one, and then I've got an electric one as well. And then yeah, just kind of playing. And got to the point where, going back on the last question, I would rather put my time instead of training into drumming, because I can't do everything. Because I don't have I physically don't have the time, and B, if I did choose to do that, my time, I'm just taking away from something else. So now my efforts are more mentally and physically placed towards music instead of weights. You know, I'm not competing, I'm not doing anything like that, and so I'd rather go into something else. So yeah, loads and loads of drumming. That's my big thing. Yeah, I love it.
I think that's an important point that you've just kind of made there, that like, you don't have all the time in the world. You're not in your early 20s where you can do all these things. Like, you're 30 something. You've got 33, got a family, got a business, got all these different spinning plates, and understanding that, right, if I want to do this, then it's going to take away from this, or it's going to take away from my family, or it's going to take away from my business. So I don't want those two to suffer. So I'm just not going to train as much. And that's okay. And I think the thing a lot of people do is they internalize the guilt of, right, I'm prioritizing this over this. But it's not been a conscious effort like yourself, where it's like, well, I want to do drumming, or to me, that's something that if you say that to somebody else, it seems productive. Whereas if in their mind, they've prioritized sitting on the sofa and watching Netflix over doing exercise, whereas if you say that to somebody, it doesn't sound as good. But actually, that might be you're spending quality time with your partner, and not that much because you're not really going to be speaking, but you're still spending time. And if that's an important part of your relationship, that is okay. But don't then go and say that, like, I hate I don't have time, but it's just not a priority, and that's okay. It's one thing that I talk about a lot, is saying that you don't have time is a very, very
just frame it, just own it. Like, I found myself running into that. So I don't have time. You have time. I just don't. I'm not choosing to do that. I'm not. It's almost like your fear of admitting that you don't want to do it. And I think this is, if you don't want to get jacked or strong or whatever, that's fine. Just own it. Like, I struggled at first seeing all my friends compete and doing really fucking well, but then I was just like, what am I doing? I've got kids. Like, training is a hobby. It's not even my business now. It's like, my business is coach, not athlete. It's like, what the fuck am I doing? So I own it. If you say I'm choosing not to do that, and then it maybe makes you realize you either want to do it or you don't want to do it. Like, it's how you frame it. So choosing what you want to do with your time, like, you know, if you choose to do a bodybuilding show, you have to admit that, well, I'll talk about me personally. If I'm choosing to do a powerlifting show, I'm going to be away for a whole weekend when I don't have any childcare, any care up here whatsoever. So that's me being selfish. B, I'm going to have to do all the training to do with that. So I might be a bit cranky, but that's now probably what I'm getting, powerlifting sessions take about 2 hours. So that's now 8 hours a week where I'm not there to help. You have to be aware that your mental upstairs is going to be more focused. Sorry, your mindset's going to be more focused on that. So you will, it's one of those things. I like to think I was doing it all, but I wasn't. I wasn't being able to focus on all of the areas. So it's like some things like suffered a little bit. We're not talking bad at all. Like, I'm not talking about child abuse or anything like that. Fuck, just more like maybe my mind wasn't there. But now at the moment, my mind is more dad as a parent, and I'm identifying as a parent, but I'm quite happy with that for the time being.
Yeah.
When the kids go to childcare, then suddenly I've got 3 days a week where I'm like, now this opens up, and now I have the time.
Yeah.
But at the moment, like shoulder's a bit iffy, and I'm like, if I'm training, I'm just in pain. I'm taken away from family here, like in terms of my performance, family. Like the amount of times I put my back out with the kids is a joke. So yeah, that's fine. But then, like, if you choose, like, I'm going to choose to do this instead, or I'm going to choose to parent, I'm going to choose to drum. So I've gone balls deep into that. I'm going to choose to be a great drummer, really, like, get really back into it. When I choose to get back in shape, yeah, it'll be fine. It will come back. Like,
Yeah.
I haven't lifted.
And as you said, when the kids are in childcare, so that was the big change for me, was when Willow started going to nursery. Like, suddenly I've just got a lot more time. Like, since finishing prep, like as Dan said, like a bodybuilding prep does take over your life. So if anybody's ever thinking about competing, you need to have a really, really good support network around you, and also let your partner know that you're going to be a bit of a selfish arsehole for about 6 months, and make sure they fully understand that. But because of that, like my entire life was revolving around training, right? When's my next meal? When am I getting my cardio in? When am I doing my training? And the one thing that I promised Natalie was that, right, when prep was finished, I would reorganize my week so that, right, Sunday is a complete day off now. I don't train and I don't do any work on a Sunday. So my training week has moved around. So I'm training less in an evening. So I now train on the days that Willow's at nursery. So I train Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So that the training week means that I can then be here and be present and with them. And it's, as Dan said, it's about moving those things around and making sure that there's still a level of balance. I mean, to be a high level athlete, things completely go out of balance. As I said, during prep, they went completely out of balance.
You need
but
to,
as long,
don't you?
as long as you're communicating that with your partner and they understand that, and then you also have times where things can be more balanced. My next prep won't be 37 weeks. I know that. Like, I wasn't expecting to be in prep for 9 months. I was expecting a maximum of 20 to 25 weeks, but like most people, I massively underestimated how much body fat I had to lose. And also we did it very slow, meticulously. So it was an average of £1 a week, but that then meant I was able to retain a lot more muscle mass. The last prep I did was 13 weeks long. So when I look at those photos and I look really small and stringy, it's because I dieted really aggressive really quickly and lost a load of muscle mass. Whereas I'm fairly sure, like, my strength now at 4 weeks out, I'm throwing 35 kilo dumbbells in my chest press up again at 4 weeks out, which says to me I retained a lot of my muscle mass because now I've fed the muscle. Like, my strength is nearly back to where it was in peak off season. Like, if I had lost a shed load of muscle, that strength wouldn't have come back that quickly. So anyways, back to the original question. Do I have any other hobbies? Not really. The only things that I
you got your sci-fi Star Wars. That's a hobby.
yeah. I'm into gaming. And actually now on a Sunday, I have a dedicated hour where I can spend on the Xbox. Now Halo Infinite's just come out. So, like, basically Sundays, we spend the day together. I do bath time. Natalie takes over for bedtime. So I literally sit down 10 minutes, right? What are the 5 key things I need to get done this week with my business? That's done. And then I can go and play on the Xbox till bedtime's done. And then Natalie kind of comes back down. So yes, I like games. whether it's mobile, on the Xbox, or whatever it is. Very into sci-fi, like Halo, Star Wars, all that kind of stuff. Love Marvel as well. I think we're both quite big
Well,
superhero
I
fans,
did
aren't we?
love Marvel until fucking Phase 4. Sorry if we're gonna go on a rant, but like I've been thinking about this a lot. And if Spider-Man No Way Home isn't the best film I've ever seen in my life ever, I'm kind of like ready to
Boycotting.
Marvel. Not boycotting, but just like
Did you
I'm
not like the
ready to just
Eternals?
stop. Oh, it was awful. It was absolutely. You liked it?
It's not my favorite Marvel movie, but I think it's because I've been starved of decent like films for so long, with COVID. Shang-Chi was, I quite liked Shang-Chi, but out of, yeah, the Marvel movies that have come out since Endgame, they've not been the same.
Mate, the series, the films, the lot. I've had a big think about it, and just no, I'm very upset with it all. I'm not happy with it.
Are you looking forward to the new Batman? Because we spoke about this actually when it first was
Yeah, I'm
announced.
impressed
Robert
by the trailer.
Pattinson.
Yeah, I'm
The
impressed by the
trailer looks
trailers. Yeah,
amazing.
I really am actually. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
impressed with what I've seen. But I love that. Like, fuck it. Like, he doesn't want to train. Fuck it. I don't want to take roids. I just be myself and like,
Yeah.
fuck it. I love that. I love it when people completely flip it. But they flipped it in a way which I think looks really cool. Whereas I think Marvel's, God, I hate saying this, but Marvel has gotten very woke recently. And I'm very left. I'm very all that kind of stuff. I am. But from watching it and just the way it feels like really forced and like it's just a bit like
It's almost like they're trying to bring in too much diversity, sort of thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
like for example, in the Eternals, like I love the fact one of the dudes was as a gay parent. Yeah, fantastic. That's great and all that, and it was done, I think, in quite a good way. But it's just just everything. It's like I think diversity is good, but it's kind of like, like the women are like on much they seem to be the central characters, which is good. Like if they're a great character, but I think from some of what I've seen, I'm just like not impressed. I think like what's his the dude that was in Game of Thrones, the Scottish guy, I forgot his name now. Like
Yeah.
in the time, I was just like
Pretty much like a Superman character.
yeah,
And
I mean
then
they
he's
even
just,
mention it, but even just the whole thing, like at the end, he just like flies into the sun. I'm like,
yeah, no,
right,
that's
like, what the
because
fuck?
his name was Icarus.
Yes, I know, but it
Yeah.
was just so like, what? He's like, oh, I'm sad now. Goodbye. I'm off to the
Yeah.
sun.
I
It's like,
didn't get that. And
exactly. It
then
doesn't
they were like,
flow.
it's
The film
because,
doesn't fucking flow. Like
yeah,
the
well,
whole
I
thing
didn't
is.
get why. I was like, why is he just floating to the sun? He was like, oh, because Icarus, the legend of that, he like flew too close to the sun. Yeah, but he
Great.
didn't
My
fly
name's
into
Dan.
the
Shall I
sun,
go
did
fight
he?
some lions in my next film? Do you know what I mean? It's just like I was so. It was utter wank. Like I love the fact I was in the cinema and I sat there for over 2 hours and I didn't check my phone. I just watched the film. It was great. But like I came out thinking, what the hell is going on here? And like, it just feels like they're trying to set so much up, and
Yeah.
it just feels
It's because,
crap.
well, when
I'm
like
annoyed.
the first like few films and everything came out and it was setting up the Avengers and everything, it's almost like because they've done it now so well with the Infinity Stone saga, that was so long, it's now shit. Like, who do we have as the big bad guy that's going to be equal to Thanos? Like, and I think they're setting up what's his name, who was like the lead, the leader that basically creates the world people. He's going to be the big bad. But I'm not being funny. How does any sort of hero go up against like that? Like, yeah.
Well, there is that argument that overpower when characters are overpowered, it's just too far removed from
Reality.
yeah, I mean, it's not exactly reality with superheroes, right? But just there's no sense of danger, and it's just like great.
It's one of those. It's why Superman never made it as a mainstream like thing, because he's too overpowered. It's like, or it's one of the reasons why the Hulk films aren't very successful, because it's like he just can't die. So that's why he hasn't got his own standalone film, because it's just like, well, what do you do? All that happens is they try and capture Bruce Banner. Bruce Banner turns into the Hulk. He destroys everything. He then escapes. He turns back into Bruce Banner. And then that cycle happens 3 or 4 times throughout a movie. Like, it gets a bit kind of like samey. Like, the things that work in terms of films are, it's based almost like in enough realism that it's believable that it could happen. So it's like in sci-fi, like when they base stuff in like space exploration and stuff, we can't explore like things, but they create, right, well, we've created a warp drive or whatever it is, so we can travel faster than the speed of light. Like, we don't quite understand why that happens, but oh yeah, that seems to make sense. That's why they can kind of get to there. But as you said, when it's too far removed from reality, people's heads kind of can't get around it, and they just can't identify with it, which is then why they struggle. And as you said, it doesn't do as well.
Yeah. Sorry, but we're not a Marvel podcast.
I was going to say we've gone on a tangent.
Yeah, I mean, I hope Spider-Man. I'm very excited for Spider-Man. I think it could be.
Spider-Man does look good.
I'm excited about that one, and there are elements of it I like. Like Shang-Chi was all right, but it was still a bit.
Well, they've signed Tom Holland for another 3 films, haven't they?
Yeah. So the theory is he's going to go off into his own universe after this. So
right,
that's why it's No Way Home, because he starts again in another universe as Spider-Man, whatever. So that
right.
But I think it says something when the computer, what do you call it? The Marvel film you're most excited about is an animated Spider-Man film from Sony. Like, I think that says a lot about the state of Phase 4. Like, the new trailer for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse looks wicked. So I think that's what I'm most excited.
I've still not watched the Miles Morales one.
Oh, dude, it's incredible. You have to watch it. It's absolutely amazing. Like, it's honestly brilliant. I've watched it like loads of times. It's been one of my favorites.
Is that on Disney Plus? No, because it's on Sony,
I don't think so, because it's Sony. It might be, but I'm not sure. I don't think it was on Netflix. I don't know if it's there anymore. Right. If not, like, find a way to torrent it or something. Honestly, it's fantastic. It's really good.
Yeah,
it's really, really good.
Okay, so final question: what's the best way to not put on weight over Christmas?
Oh, fuck off! Don't worry about it. The best way is to don't throw your progress out the window. If you are like, I've got a couple of people who are in life-changing positions of, we're talking dropping like 40 kilos, and for them to gain it all back would be really shit. So if you are keen to keep progressing, give yourself Christmas Day off. Enjoy that completely. Don't track a thing. Go nuts. Not nuts. Just enjoy yourself. Be with family. Be with friends. Treat the rest of the days as just days. If you have a couple of extra things, fine. If you're doing a family function, eat a couple of extra things. That's great. What I would focus on is the basics of 2 liters of water minimum. Get loads of veg in, like tons and tons of veg. Basically, get filler ingredients in, so tons of green, like Brussels sprouts are fucking brilliant. They're tasty and they fill you up loads. So tons of veg, get that in. Stick to your normal eating habits. So if you have a protein shake after training, have a protein shake. Keep your training habits as normal. Don't just stop completely. I mean, if you feel you have to, do. But if I'm honest, I used to really enjoy training over Christmas. Partly because everyone's off, I'm off, and it's nice. Secondly, I like sometimes doing things that other people won't do. So for example, we've all got home gyms. I bet loads of people are going to go into the home gym on Christmas Day and do something. And you know what? More power to you. Why not? It's your own space. Enjoy it. Go for it. There's no judgment of, don't be the dick who's like, look at me, I'm hardcore training Christmas Day, and you've got like 14-inch biceps. But, if you want to train Christmas Day, enjoy it. Not a problem. But in terms of like keeping track over Christmas, tons of water. Go for loads of walks with your families. It's a great time to get out there, post Christmas lunch, meet up, go for big long walks. You'll be surprised at how much that takes off. I know you're a big proponent of that. Keep up your training. Don't let off. Protein at every meal. Keep sticking to that. If you're gonna have something nice, have it, but then just have it and move on. If you only gain a small amount of weight over Christmas, fantastic. A lot of it will be bloating, so water as well. If you gain no weight, that's a huge win as well. If you lose some weight, well, fair enough. But if you don't lose any weight over Christmas, it's 1 week of the year. Like, it doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't mean anything. Just jump back straight into where you were.
Yeah. So I actually wrote a blog post about this for I think Arctic Berg are going to post it actually. Basically, when people gain weight over Christmas, it's not necessarily just Christmas Day. It's this month beforehand. So it's cold, it's wet, the days are shorter. We're wanting to spend time inside in the central heating. So basically, it's a recipe for disaster because there's more calorie dense food around. There's mince pies, there's chocolate, there's nuts, there's all this food that doesn't seem to be around for the rest of the year, when actually people are bringing in like Yule logs and all that kind of stuff. When I worked in a hair salon, like it was one of those things. People were bringing cakes, muffins, chocolates, everything like that. Because it's, as humans, we socialize over food. It's something that's been in our culture since the dawn of time. So when it is a big festive season, we tend to share food. So there's more food and we move less, which is why most people put on, say, anywhere from half a stone to a stone in December. Now, as Dan said, if you've been working for the majority of this year to do a decent chunk of fat loss by putting on like 7 pounds in a month, it's going to take a lot of your momentum out. So the first thing that I would do is you need to decide what your goal is for this period. Is it you want to carry on losing weight, in which case you're going to have to be much stricter? Or is it you go, you know what, for December, if I maintain, I'm going to be happy because I'm not taking a step backwards. I'm just going to be kind of where I am. Or do you just own it, accept the fact you're going to put on half a stone, and that basically to get ready for your summer holidays probably going to be a little bit more difficult. Firstly, you just want to acknowledge what you're going to kind of do with this time. So as I said, if you are wanting to carry on losing weight, all the things Dan said were great things to do. Getting family involved in like getting more active and just being really, really mindful of what you're eating. Like enjoy Christmas Day, but just don't be greedy. Like something, I send out a Christmas cheat sheet every year where it's like, right, here's the keys to what you need to do for this week between Christmas and New Year. However, the week between New Year, the 51 weeks between New Year and Christmas are far more important than that 1 week between Christmas and New Year. It's 7 days. What was it? So yeah, if you're wanting to maintain, like you'll give yourself a lot more wiggle room, because most people, if they're in a calorie deficit, you're aiming for between like 500 to 1,000 calories a day. So if you're just aiming to maintain, you get that 500 to 1,000 calories back to be able to utilize on more food, things like that. If you are looking to maintain and you're getting some extra food in there, focus on driving performance rather than what the scales is saying. So if you're lifting weights, use those extra calories to be able to drive your performance in the gym, because what will then happen is if you've managed to drive your performance for 4 or 5 weeks, when you then go into pulling those calories like back out, your energy output will be up here because you've spent the last 3 weeks using those extra calories to drive your body's ability to move a load up higher, which means you then need more energy to move those loads. Then when you pull the energy back out, it's going to create a greater deficit than when you kind of went in at the beginning of December. And the other thing is enjoy this time of year. Like we've had a really shitty 2 years. Like everyone thought, right, 2021, the pandemic will be over and we'll kind of get back to normal. It hasn't really panned out that way. So actually spending time with your family, like enjoying this time of year is probably not going to kill you. However, just don't then go into some mad crash diet in January. Just accept that. It's going to take you a little bit longer, so start a little bit earlier. If you know you're going on holiday in, say, June, you probably want to get started pretty early in January. Whereas if you're not going on holiday till like August, September time, like you can get away with starting like a little bit later. But yeah, all those things Dan said are some very, very good advice in terms of managing your energy income anyway. Cool. I think that about covers it. So what days I need to go and train? I'm off driving to the gym. So I joined it's a personal training but bodybuilding style gym. It's about a 10-minute drive away down the A1, because I was just getting sick of not having access to some really, really good quality kit to train back and legs, because those are the 2 areas I really need to bring up for my next competition. So it's been great to catch up with you, Dan. Where can the people find you if they want to learn more about you and your wonderful drumming habits, as well as some of the training stuff you post?
Instagram's probably the best. Barbells and Beans is where I post most of the stuff. I will start posting more regularly. I haven't done anything for quite a while, but I'm going to start posting more. And then that's where I am. Yep.
Awesome. And for myself, it's at Deej PT on all platforms. So Instagram, Facebook, and now YouTube. So I've started doing some more vlogging stuff in terms of my bodybuilding side. So I'm splitting out. Instagram used to just be where everything goes, and it got very, very confusing. So like my bodybuilding stuff is going to go onto more YouTube, whereas my coaching stuff is going to sit on Instagram. Cool. Right. Well, enjoy the rest of your day, buddy, and I will speak to you again soon.
Bye.
No problem. Bye.